many people tend to think that life is all just coincidence, or probably things are done to them. They are the victim of the world in some way. Yet at the same time, many of us also recognize certain patterns and certain things that seem to repeat that they can't really find out why. And the truth of the matter is that our soul actually has planned all of that. What speaks to your heart is what your soul has chosen for you. Soul contract is operating on a very different level. It talks about what makes your heart sing. It talks about what brings you the highest potential and fulfillment. So if you choose to follow your soul's blueprint or your soul's plan, yes, you may still meet challenges, but you'll be able to move through them because people, after doing their soul contract reading, have found what are you exactly here for. That's how abundance actually works its way into your life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to DMC with Patricia, where deep, meaningful conversations help you grow one video at a time. I'm so excited about today's episode because I have a very special guest with me, and her name is Lynn Gemilliah. She's a soul contract analysis expert, and I'm really excited bringing her on because, she just has this power in her words, and there's so much wisdom that every time when I'm with her, I get to bring back little contemplative pieces, and there's just really something about her that I truly admire. And so in today's episode, we are going to talk about how you can leverage on what's already within you to manifest any kind of abundance into your life. And in this video, you will see how a soul contract reading can uncover the deepest insights to help you get closer to your core. And what I love about it is it also comes with recommendations for you to take inspired action. And do stay until the end of the video because we have a very special gift for you. And so without further ado, let's take it to the interview. So, Lynn, for someone who has absolutely no idea about what soul contract is, why should they spend time listening?
That's a very good question. To keep it simple, I would think that there are three important keys that anyone who's listening in with us today can take away from this incredible tool called soul contract work. And number one is that they would have a very easy tool to find out their soul's wealth blueprint and how to align with them. And number two is to be able to identify the sabotages, the blocks that are stopping them from receiving abundance and start clearing them. And number three, which is the result of the first two, of course, that is to answer the question of how to enter into effortless flow. And the basis of all of these keys is that our soul actually has a plan prior to our incarnation. And if we can tap into that plan through the soul contract work, you can actually open up the possibilities to reach your highest potential, including the highest potential in abundance on different levels.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing. How does our soul choose this life that we're in choosing these challenges, sufferings, as many people will call? Yeah, so how does that work?
Right, so many people tend to think that life is all just coincidence, or probably things are done to them. They are the victim of the world in some way. Yet at the same time, many of us also recognize certain patterns and certain things that seem to repeat that they can't really find out why. And the truth of the matter is that our soul actually has planned all of that. Whether for us to become a victim of certain situations, certain people, or whether for us to get into certain dire states, bad relationships, and whatever not. Of course, it's not 100% that was planned from the beginning, because soul planning is a very intricate process. And how it works, if I can probably explain it in a hopefully simple way, is that our souls all have guides, and mainly there are two guides that follow us through different lifetimes, and these guides are responsible for spotting opportunities of reincarnation on earth for us based on our needs of what we call soul evolution, our needs of learning, our needs of experiences, balancing experiences, or for some of us is the desire for service. So when the guides spot the opportunities and we agree to explore these opportunities, we are actually brought to the karmic board. And this karmic board would then present to us the different possibilities of of incarnation, the learning curves, the potential, the challenges, and all of that. And all these, once agreed upon, would become our soul contract, and it would then manifest into the karmic matrix that would follow us through our incarnation, where it's an energetic blueprint that would then be expressed or be manifest into the different experiences that we have in our life. Now, that having said that, is still the soul plan, which is chosen by us or by you on a higher level. Yet at the same time, for every step of the way that we are moving, we still have free will choice to choose whether to follow the blueprint or to follow the conditional patterns that we have from past life or from childhood or from whatever conditioning that we are subject to. We still have that free will choice to live out the plan each moment. I think free will choice can sound a bit bombastic, but if you just imagine that yourself to be presented with two different job opportunities, one is gonna pay you a lot of money, you have opportunities to travel and all of that, and one is some quieter job and some, back office kind of thing. Now, what is the reason why we choose the job that we choose, for example? It's totally up to us and what has conditioned us to be where we are. So if we enjoy traveling, we may choose that job. If we enjoy a quiet life, we may choose the other offer. But what is the driving factor for this choice? It can be conditioning from the past. It can be, your upbringing, your family environment, your parents' ideology and all these things. But what speaks to your heart is what your soul has chosen for you.
Wow.
That job that doesn't pay very well may speak to you better.
Wow, that's
than the
amazing.
job that pays better. But
right. So there are actually many different systems that exist out there, right? Such as human design, astrology, and etc. What is the key difference between each of these systems?
Yeah, I think there's just so many different wonderful tools out there for us to leverage on every phase of our life. And I think having explored some of those tools myself, whether as a client, studying it on a certain level, I would say that a lot of systems out there, whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot card reading and different things, are very much personality based, where it's probably giving you strategies and tactics and probably help you address certain specifics in your life, like, okay, should I take this job, should I take another job, should I marry this guy or not, that sort of question that it may help you to answer. But soul contract is operating on a very different level. It talks about what makes your heart sing. It talks about what brings you the highest potential and fulfillment, and it combines the personality layer with the spiritual layer, where at the end of the day, it's all about the integration of the multidimensional aspects that we as a human being exist as. So I would say that all these systems actually contain ageless wisdom. It has its own strengths and its own value. So of course it depends on what resonates with you and what speaks to you at certain phases in your life that you choose one of those tools. But from my own experience of using and of being exposed to these systems, I would say, for example, do you want to go into like very specific like astrology or Pachi? They address very specific personality or personal challenges and strengths, and it's the energetic cycle of our lives based on different zodiac, different stars. Or human design is very much the strategies to make decisions in life based on our energetic makeup. Or tarot card, pretty much for specific situations that we need to address. You draw a card and see is a yes or no, that kind of thing, or what may happen if you go left or go right. But soul contract is different in the sense that it emphasizes a lot on free will choice. It's not fatalistic, it's not predictive, it's all about potential. So if you choose to follow your soul's blueprint or your soul's plan, yes, you may still meet challenges, but you'll be able to move through them because you can leverage on the gifts and the talents that are available as tools in your soul contract. And yeah, it goes to the depth of the whys and the hows.
Okay.
Why your life is going through certain situations or having certain patterns, and how do you overcome that using your existing talents or your latent talents. that need to be brought up and expressed. And also the what, which is what are you exactly here for?
Since our topic today is about abundance, it would be interesting to know what and how has soul contract analysis helped any of your clients create abundance in their life.
So if we are talking about my experience with clients, then there are a lot of different ways that people, after doing their soul contract reading, have found different levels of abundance. For some clients, they may step into more loving relationship. For some of them, financial situation shifts. They receive more support or more opportunities in their life. Just a very simple example of how I shifted certain patterns that I have in my soul contract to open myself up to more abundance is, for example, during my wedding. In all my life, I always work very hard all by myself. I like to do things myself because I didn't quite trust people to fulfill the task, or I just didn't feel like asking for support. But as I worked through the pattern that was blocking me from receiving support, then during the wedding preparation, a lot of my friends actually came to just offer help. And as I was able to let go of my perfectionism, of my distrust in receiving, and I just opened to support, then the whole process was very easeful, whether it's financially, receiving a lot of different sponsorship or help in different ways from different people. The whole thing just became very joyful and very easeful. So even though it's a very simple example, but that's how abundance actually works its way into your life, through different expressions and different experiences and different situations. And beyond the different experiences that I have with my clients or with myself, generally, if we look at soul contract as a system, then it helps you discover on the physical or personality and the spiritual level the talents that you have that would be the natural pathway for you towards abundance. And also it would help you discover the karmic patterns that are blocking you from receiving abundance sustainably. Now, on that topic, I think a lot of personality systems out there, like astrology or card readings and things like that, would be able to give you certain specific answers, like, okay, in this cycle of your life, you're going to be losing money, or you're going to get a lot of money, or whatever it is. But soul contract is kind of different in the sense that it would help you identify your karmic patterns, that okay, there is this pattern of unworthiness that you are not receiving, that you feel that you are not worthy to receive abundance, and if it plays up, it's gonna express in this way or that. And when you check in with your subjective experience, you will be able to see, okay, so the root cause of this lack of abundance is actually this karmic pattern, and if I work on clearing it, then abundance will come. So it addresses the root cause of any situation you have in life, not giving you an answer as to you're gonna be, this or that. And of course, through the talents that you have in your chart, in your soul contract, you would also be able to leverage on it to help shift the karmic imprints and achieve the goals that are defined in the soul plan that was designed by you before incarnation. Now, of course, here we're talking about abundance, manifesting abundance on different levels. And I would say it's not just about soul contract reading. It's about following through with what you discover from the soul contract and take steps. It gives you a map, it gives you the plan, but it's your job to walk the path and to open up the potential that your soul has planned for you. Of course, I would say that it's an invaluable tool for healing and alignment, because as long as you keep your eye on it, as long as you keep the karmic patterns in check and work on it, then things would all open up in its due time.
What do you mean by clearing the karmic patterns?
So think of karmic patterns as patterns that negative and unhelpful for your growth or for your happiness and joy and things like that. For example, some of us may have unworthiness as a pattern. Some of us may have perfectionism, distrust, control, abusive speech, abusive behavior, and a lot of different patterns that can play up. So when we talk about clearing karmic pattern, it's all about recognizing what's playing up in every moment in your life, in a situation, in a relationship that you have with your partner, with your colleagues, with your family. What is playing up? What is causing all this unhappiness, friction?
So can we find all of that in the chart?
Positively, yes. Of course, it depends on how much inner work you can do with the soul contract. Because even though it may lay out for you the different patterns that you may have in your life, but without awareness, without being conscious of what's going on in your life, it's very difficult for you to like piece things together and see how it's playing out. Because for every one of us, even though we may share the same pattern, it may play out differently. For some people, it's more prominent in one particular area. For some people, it's across different areas. So for certain people, they have a lot of money, but no emotional wealth or no health.
Yep.
So that can be different spectrums, different ends of the spectrum. And for some people, of course, the struggle is across the board. It depends on what the soul has chosen to evolve from in this lifetime.
Okay. Right, so I think maybe to give everyone a little bit more context and also to show how the chart would look like, I have volunteered my own chart. Ultimately, why I'm doing this is because soul contract analysis has been one of the catalysts of my transformation. In fact, I'm very, very grateful that I get to come across your work at the very beginning of my healing journey, and that has provided a lot of direction to the path that I actually took.
This is your chart, Patricia, right?
Yep.
Is there anything particular that you would like to check from this chart?
I would like to know what are the general view about the blocks that I may face, or I've been facing even.
Okay, with regards to abundance.
Yes, that's right, with regards to abundance.
Okay, so generally, as an overview, we have a lot of different blocks, but it especially sits in our karmic imprints of spiritual or physical karma. And because you look like you're still quite young, a lot of things on the physical level would still be playing up. Of course, you may have worked through that a lot already. It's just that for the sake of self-exploration and reflection, I would like to check in and see whether that karmic imprint may still resonate with you or not. So from what I can see on the physical level, the physical karma, and also because it sits in different parts of your chart, there is some form of shyness, some form of withdrawing that you may have experienced as a child. Does that resonate?
Yeah, 100%. I used to be a very shy child, and not even, like, I think up until now, I do find myself withdrawing from things. This was particularly prominent in my teenage years, that when I don't feel accepted within a group of people, it has brought up like that sense of unworthiness in me. The first thing I would do is withdraw. And people would always wonder why, you know?
Yeah. The reason why we focus on the tree is because number one, it sits in your karmic imprint, and number two is it's also in physical talent. And 3 is a master number, so the energy is quite strong. Now the 3 has a lot to do with unworthiness, because the theme of the 3 is from poverty to wealth.
Right.
It means that you may have experienced certain forms of financial trouble or certain form of emotional lack stemming from the sense of unworthiness.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the gift of the 3 is communications. And because it's in your talent, do you experience as well growing up that you have gift of the gap, the gift of speaking?
I think maybe in recent years I have been told, or rather, like, you know, signs have been pushing me towards like developing my gifts in expression and communication, and hence why I have this YouTube channel, and I'm trying to push myself to do what I fear most or what I feel most discomfort in, which is to speak up. Yeah. So
right, that's wonderful. The reason why I emphasize that, of course, we are here talking about karmic imprints, so that you can see two sides of the coin. There is that karmic imprint, but behind it is the biggest gift that you have, the gift of expression, the gift of communications. And ultimately for the 3, is the main theme is, of course, communications, but it's about creative expressions in many different forms, whether in acting, singing, in writing, speaking, teaching, and all of this. And it's about drawing from the depth of your soul to bring it out and communicate it on a two-way, on a feeling level. But before you can leverage on that gift, you will need to overcome the karmic imprint of unworthiness. It also may manifest in the form of of course, we were mentioning about the lack, sense of lack, poverty, impoverishment in different areas of life. But it's also about being unable to get in touch with your feeling. And even when you are in touch with your feelings, you don't feel like you can express it. And that can be one of the hurdles for the tree to overcome before any gifts can be brought in or before the abundance can be manifested.
Right, so discovering myself in a feeling manner and finding it hard to express myself, when that happens, does it also mean that sometimes that's why I actually engaged in expressing myself in the wrong ways? Like, for example, throwing tantrums when I was younger. What else? Just acting in a very self-entitled way.
Well, that is a sign of certain form of rebellious trait in you, which is in the 21. 21 is very rebellious.
Oh, okay.
It has that energy of endurance and strength and the energy to challenge the norms, but also a lot of suppression, repression from authority figures, for example. And your chart, there's a lot of energy related to power. So that may be one of the themes, one of the obstacles as well that you can look at. If we are focusing purely on the numbers that are very relevant to, say, abundance, some ways that you talk about, then the tree is quite key to you in terms of the sense of worthiness. But of course, 17.8 here, for example, also has some form of worthiness issue. Like 17 is the mouth of God. So it's also about feeling worthy enough to be the expression of God, to be speaking the words of God.
If I manage to overcome my sense of unworthiness, abundance would come.
Definitely. That's positive, yes. A lot of us share the unworthiness pattern, but it may manifest in different expressions. So in your case, it may manifest as hiding, as for the case of 13.4, it's about not trusting in the flow of God, in the flow of abundance, not trusting that you will be supported all the time by the universe. And also the 13.4 may have issue receiving and sharing two-way. Some people with the 13.4 may overgive. Some people may be overly selfish because there's no trust in the flow.
Right.
So for different people, it may express differently.
Yeah.
And when it comes to working through all these karmic patterns, or what we call focused inner work based on your karmic patterns, I would say that the first thing is to defrost your emotion, to start expressing your feelings, start expressing any tiny little feeling that you may have. Now, of course, like what you mentioned earlier, it's all about communicating it non-violently. It's about making sure that, you speak up but not overpower others.
Yeah.
So that's also a theme of the tree, and where the common recommendation that you usually have for the tree is non-violent communication, which is a model developed by Marshall Rosenberg. It's quite a useful model to get in touch with your feeling and then communicate and to negotiate your reality.
Wow.
So yeah.
So what are your recommendations for me to overcome the sense of unworthiness and to attract more abundance into my life?
In your case, you're very fortunate because your talent is the same as your karma. So it's a lot easier. For some people, they have a karma that's so heavy and yet the talent is too light to transmute.
Right.
In your case, it's easy. So it's all about opening up your emotions, defrosting your emotions and start expressing it. Even with the 17.8, it's all about connecting with yourself emotionally instead of suppressing your emotions, and then relate to other people on the emotional level.
Right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's about leveraging on your talent, which is the 17.8 and the tree. And the tree's talent is all about speaking, about expressing creatively in the world. And the 17 is all about expressing as well through writing or speaking freely. So if you can leverage on these few gifts, you would be able to transmute whatever karmic imprints blocking you from receiving the flow.
Yeah.
At the same time, it would also help you achieve the goals that you are here for. So in your case, for example, the goal is to share Christ consciousness or to teach and heal people, to help people transform. At the end of the day, like I mentioned, it's all about leveraging on your talents. So if you can use that gift of expression to connect with people and to help give them the knowledge, the wisdom that you have gathered over different lifetimes or over this lifetime through your own experience and all of that, then you would be able to step into that flow. When you start stepping into your heart vocation, which is what speaks to your soul, speaks to your heart,
Right. Okay.
then the flow of abundance will be more sustainable. But of course, it's all about leveraging on all the different elements of the chart, not just one single element. So if you look at the world from a personality perspective, definitely a lot of people seem to be able to create abundance through manifestation, through honing their skills, different ways that people use to attract abundance. Maybe they can excel at their job, at whatever they do and all that. Soul Contract's way is a bit different because it focuses on clearing the root cause and focuses on using the talent that's available, which is the path of least resistance.
Okay.
And from there, manifesting whatever that's in the goal area. Now, all of these happen on physical level and also on spiritual level. And physical level here, we are talking about material, physical, material, bodily abundance. We are talking about emotional and mental, which is knowledge and skills. But at the same time, it's also about spiritual abundance, which is about our connection to source, our connection to our higher self and soul. So as we walk through the whole chart, all of these aspects would come online naturally in tandem. There is no one without the other. If you only focus on personality tools, which usually comes from lack, like you want to attract something because you
so
feel
true.
there's a lack. Yes, you may attract it, but it may not sustain, or you may manifest some sabotage down the road. So when you work with the soul contract as a whole or as a holistic approach, then whatever that you draw to your life in accordance with the plan, the different rungs of the ladder for you to achieve higher and higher potential. And even if there is still challenge on the way, you would know that you are still aligning with the path that is crafted out for you, as opposed to just, manifesting a specific relationship or manifesting a specific amount of money or a house or a car, that kind of. Yeah. So that's how I see.
So you don't limit it.
Yes, it's multi-level, multifaceted.
Okay. I think we've been talking about my chart, multiple times. And every time, although you're talking about it from the same angle, but I learn different things about myself. So that's why I love this system. I love this tool. So now that I know all this information about my chart, okay, so in the past, through my own personal experience, yes, I've gone through different systems and tools like human design and even the gene keys, whatnot. Right? Having that knowledge is one thing, but then taking the initiative is another thing. When it comes to taking action, that resistance is just it's just there to prevent me from moving forward. Yeah, so how does one move forward and be able to overcome resistance in themselves?
Right. This is actually a very common question. And I've seen that in many of my soul contract clients. Like either they feel a revelation kind of thing through the soul contract reading and they walk away with so much of information and action points to move forward, but life gets busy. And then there are just different things that happen and they would forget what they are here to do. So resistance is a very common ego programming to keep you in place. There is ego definitely does not want you to get enlightened. It needs to sustain itself on a personality level. So resistance is a very common issue in many people. Even when it comes to developing a skill set or changing job just to get more income, there are people who just get stuck in a job, in a situation, in something for their whole life. Whether it's spiritual or not spiritual, it doesn't matter. Whether they know about their soul contract or they don't. And even when you know about your soul contract and you have a lot of motivation in the beginning, you may still stumble upon the old patterns that keep you in place. And there are so many different patterns that we can talk about, like fear of being great, fear of stepping into your greatness, fear of being seen, fear of money. There is programmed that money is dirty, money is evil, and consciously we don't think we have. But as you dive deeper into it, then you will find out that, well, there's just so many different things that we need to clear before we can move on. And so that's one of the first things that I would say we need to work with when it comes to resistance. When we feel the resistance, the first thing is to figure out what is causing this resistance. So generally, I would say look back at your soul contract and see what are the patterns that are blocking me from moving forward, and see what's playing up, and then use the respective tools to clear it. Whether it's healing, it's meditation, contemplation, self-clearing, energy clearing, and all different stuff that you can find out there. Work through that, and that's the first biggest step to clear, to move from resistance. Now, the second component that I find very helpful, that a lot of people seem to underestimate, is to find your tribe. So instead of surrounding yourself with people who doubt, who question where you're heading, doubt your values and all of these, find people who support, nurture, who inspire, who can give you guidance instead of dampening your spirit. It can also be tribes where you can learn skills from, depending on where you are in your path. So
What if I don't know where to find my tribe?
of course, one way is to actively seek what resonates with you. Okay, I'm in this situation, which circle, which kind of community should I engage myself in? And throw yourself in there. Of course, if you have resistance, again, to throw yourself into a circle, then go back to step one and clear that resistance. Is it like me trying to hide myself, me trying to shy away from the world again, right? So as you work through that and find your tribe, then naturally you'll get certain support. Another way that a tribe would come to you is that as you aspire, as you work on yourself, you may experience synchronicities. Where people would mention some names, or people would send you some link or whatever it is, and if that resonates, then look at it.
It's a sign.
Yes, exactly. So that's how I find that tribes come to me, or I can find tribes. Of course, community or circles would evolve. You don't necessarily stay in a school or stay in a community for your whole life. It may fit you at this phase of your life, and then you move on and you join a different circle, a different community. And that's totally okay, right? So to come back to the major components of clearing the resistance, the third part that I find pretty important is to leverage on your talents. Because like I mentioned earlier, talents is something which has the least resistance, the least karmic imprints. Of course, in your case, it's the same as karmic. So it may, the 17-8 is in spiritual talent as well as spiritual karma. So it's a bit tricky there.
So that's it's kind of like my shadow as well as
your gift. It helps, it makes life slightly easier for you, but then you'll probably swing between the two, between shadow and gift and all that, until you fully transmute it. But as you leverage on the positive expressions of these numbers, for example, 17 is all about dominion, is about being the mouth of God. Also, the 8 is about emotional connection with people. So you have the ability to relate to any type of people in the world, whether it's light, dark, intellectual, unintellectual, good, bad, and all different things. So if you can leverage on that and connect with people emotionally, or to get into vocations that flowing more in line with you, with those talents, then you'll find less resistance, of course, right? Because it's the path of least resistance. It doesn't mean that you don't need to do what's necessary. You still need to get the skills. And the fourth component, which I find even more important, is to practice patience and self-compassion. And this is what a lot of us tend to forget. We would like to see things transform overnight. Humans thrive on instant gratification. We tend to want quick fix.
Yes.
Even though I would say that soul contract is already a shortcut. It's already a tool for you to save a lot of time and effort trying to figure out which pathway to take, or what's the problem here, and all these things. But it's still not an overnight process. And for so many years of accumulating karmic imprints, and so many lifetimes of layers and layers, and now that we are consciously working to peel off those layers, we would need to spend more time to work on that than just one healing session and that's it. Voila, you you're home. No, it doesn't work like that. So patience is one of the keys, and with that patience is self-compassion, because we tend to beat ourselves up like, okay, I know so much, why can't I do it? I have so many tools, yet I cannot make a difference in my life. I'm still stuck in this and that position, in that pattern.
So how does willpower actually come into play with patience and compassion as well? Because as much as you have patience and compassion for yourself, it ultimately takes willpower to make things happen.
We all have free will choice, and that's the power of the willpower. And that free will choice is to choose to follow spirit, follow the soul's path, or to follow the ego conditional patterns, the old ways. There is no way we can avoid exercising our free will in choosing anything. In the same vein, choosing to be compassionate with yourself is using your will, is using your willpower. Now, there is a fine line between willing yourself to move forward versus beating yourself up.
Yeah.
It's very different. So, in order for you to exercise your will, number one, you've got to be aware. You've got to be conscious of what's playing up. What am I choosing here? And if it's ego choosing the old patterns, then how do I work with the ego? How do I clear the patterns? And that, again, is exercising your will. But when it doesn't get cleared fast enough, do I use my will power to beat myself up? That's a totally different thing.
Right.
I wouldn't say totally different thing, but that's the wrong use of will. You're abusing yourself, right? And in many people's case, yes. And I noticed that, for example, if you have 1 in your chart, the will is very strong. The willpower is very strong. So we tend to misuse that strength, that will.
Okay.
Like we exert the will on fixing things, on, trying to change things overnight, or
Control.
trying to, control, as opposed to using it for the greater good. Instead of using that will to be the anchor for others, to transform, to heal, and all that. Yeah. So there's one more component that I think is not exactly the biggest component, but it's something to keep in mind, that is to keep aligning yourself with your soul's why. Because now that you have discovered the motivation that your soul is here for, the learning curve, the goals, the purpose, the mission, and all of that, keep looking at your soul contract every now and then. Because the more you remind yourself of why you are here, the more it weakens the resistance.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I think it has been about 2 years, close to 3 years, that I last did my soul contract analysis.
That's long.
Yeah, that's pretty long ago. And I still have the report, and every single time I read it, I see it in a whole different light. That happens because as your consciousness expands, you have a very different perspective of things. Everyone has self-doubts. Every now and then, it comes creeping up, and going through the report again reminds me of why I'm here and what I'm supposed to do. And that helps with the willpower. Because when you understand that that is your key purpose, somehow everything falls into place. So that's what I realize every time I read it. It's like, okay, it kind of brings me back, grounds me again.
That's great. Yeah. And I think a lot of people tend to lose track of what it is all about. If you keep the goal in mind, keep the end in mind, it is always helpful to align you.
Yes.
Because then you're not deviating away from it. Yeah, that's wonderful, because you are actually using the tool. Like I said, soul contract is just a tool. It doesn't replace you walking the path. But if you keep coming back to it and using that tool, it will be supportive for you on your path. It becomes a path itself at some point.
Hey, if you're still here at this point of the video, as promised, we have a very special gift for you. If you want a live personal soul contract reading with Lynn, she has ever been so kind to offer you a session at a discounted rate. The reading also comes with a post-session report where you can go back to it and refer to it whenever you feel called to. Click on the link in the description box below to Rise Well Healing's website, where you can book a reading session with Lynn. And as always, if you find this video helpful, please do share it with your friends and family so that they can be guided onto their soul's path in their transformation. And if you would like to see more of these content, please do click the subscribe button and the bell button as well, that notification button, so every time I post a video, you are being notified as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.